Tallinn's medieval Old Town is often the first sight greeting visitors when they arrive in the city centre. The district is completely encircled by thick limestone walls and dotted by battle towers around the entire circumference. Looking down onto the red-tiled rooftops from the popular lookout on Tompea Hill, you can see the Old Town, the city centre with its business towers and hotels, and the Bay of Tallinn chocked full of cruise ships from Finland and Sweden. When my great-uncle, a retired architect, and his wife came to visit a few years back, he sent us wandering around the town while he sat with his sketchbook for hours, just drinking in the lines and forms and putting them on paper. Of course, if you're only here for a few days, Tallinn is all you'll see. Very few visitors get outside of the capital city. Even fewer see the countryside. Very few see the verdant greens of our mixed forests, or the cranberry carpets blanketing the marshes in autumn, or the long dark nights of our northern winter. These seasonal realities provide context and backstory for those of us who call these streets home. We see the towers and the colors, and the rest, and it really is as great as our visitors say. But it's only the first layer of visibility. What will you see as you begin to travel these roads and delve into the deeper parts of Europe's countries and cultures? What catches your eye and what remains unseen? This year has been a year of the seen and the unseen, the perceived, the unperceived, and the yet to be revealed. The Edmunster family has been living in Rapla, Estonia, and serving the church here a little over 8 years. We were joined last year by another family, the Ellises from the state of Texas, who've been working with our youth. For the bulk of these 8 years, and indeed for the first year of the Ellises' term here, there was a lot of building to be done. Building programs, preparation of projects, aiming for ways to do things together and reach a wider audience. And all of that has been very good and very important. We have invested in relationships with other churches in the area. We've partnered together on evangelistic and practical endeavors. We've contributed to local community life and have made an effort to serve the community in visible ways, addressing felt needs. And in recent years, we have engaged the community in prayer and inner healing ministry. The Rapla Church has long had a reputation for a vibrant and discipleship-oriented youth ministry. In anticipation of Ben and Katie Ellis's arrival last year, we developed a coffee shop ministry aimed at serving local youth. And under Ben's leadership, that space has been used not only to host our youth nights, but also to encourage other youth groups in the region. But in March of last year, as you all know, all these things came to a screeching halt. There was a bit of respite over the summer. We were able to conduct camps and coordinate some other activities that felt a bit familiar. But with the new year, we faced another wave of COVID. Halls that were previously built for multiple uses sat empty. Chairs separated by 2 meters, piles of masks at the door. On the surface of things, the coronavirus and its societal implications could have been a 1-2 punch, bringing our public ministry to a halt. But in truth, this year of programmatic limitation has also been one of our most fruitful on record. In the summer, we baptized 10 people, 7 of whom were youth and 3 of whom were middle-aged people who were returning to the faith after years of resistance. Another 4 were added to their number on New Year's Eve, and there are more waiting in the wings to be baptized this year. For our little church of 45 attendees, this is remarkable growth, and particularly remarkable in a year in which our hands have been tied organizationally. So what's going on? Where is this unseen growth coming from? A recent study conducted by the Estonian Council of Churches has examined attitudes in the culture towards faith and religion in general. This year's results have been very interesting, and 2 results stand out in particular. They seem to stand in contrast to one another. One result is that there seems to be an increase in people's interest in spiritual things. Outright atheism is actually relatively rare, showing up only in about 15% of the population. Of course, spiritual openness is not always directed at Christianity, and more we see that it is definitely not associated with institutional or organizational models. But still, there is a recognition that spiritual matters are of great importance, perhaps increasingly so in this year of crisis. And this confirms what we've seen in our baptisms. Even older generations, who might have been considered atheistic in previous times, are beginning to open up and recognize that spiritual truths play an important role in life. But the investigation showed something else as well. On measure after measure of engagement with the culture, an increasing number of respondents indicated hesitancy to see the church taking on a more active role in society. Social work, commentary on public goods and ills, questions of war, conflict, immigration, morality, family life. All of these have traditionally been topics in which the church wishes to have some kind of influence. And yet, society is increasingly hesitant to see the church as an institution exert its will in these areas. The domain of church is relegated to spiritual instruction, religious education, and more broadly, the organization of cultural events such as organ concerts and choral recitals. One of our sociologists of religion has described the typical Estonian's relationship with the church as vicarious Christianity. On the spectrum of world religions, Estonia distinguishes itself from Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus as Christian. But actual engagement with the church and expected engagement from the church with society is a matter of individual taste. This might seem like a blow to the missional aspirations of evangelical Christianity, but from the lee side of the latest COVID storm, I think there's something that the pandemic year has taught us about proclaiming the kingdom from a place of organizational weakness. The unseen is slowly coming into focus, and I think it is this. I may contribute to the growth of the kingdom with my talents, visions, and efforts, and indeed it's the privilege of my life and the life of those in our church to be invited to do so in this beautiful little corner of the Lord's kingdom. But the kingdom depends not on me, not on us, not on our efforts, but on the King. What remains unseen, but always undergirds and vivifies the kingdom, is the work of the Holy Spirit. It isn't stopped by pandemic, it isn't stopped by hardship, it isn't stopped by ideology or turns of history. The Holy Spirit continues his work in all places and all times, regardless of the circumstances, in Rapla, Estonia, in Europe, and all over the world.